Could have just slipped away into oblivion, like I came from, you know. But it's not fair to her. I didn't get her, you know, I found her, I want people to know she was a good soul.
Yeah.
Her friends loved her. She would have just brought so much to this world. So, yeah.
Hamilton, Michigan, in 1989, was the epitome of small-town America. With a population of just over 1,500, it was a place where neighbors greeted each other by name and children roamed freely on bikes until dusk. But on March 11th of that year, this peaceful veneer was shattered when 14-year-old Aundria Bowman vanished without a trace. Her adoptive father, Dennis Bowman, reported her missing, claiming she had stolen $100 from her mother Brenda's purse and run away. Aundria was known to be rebellious. Her grades had slipped, she'd been caught smoking, and she'd run away before. But this time felt different. Sightings were reported in nearby cities like Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo, yet the leads fizzled out, and the case went cold. For over 30 years, Aundria remained just another runaway in the system, her file buried under layers of dust and neglect. In the late 1980s, missing persons cases involving teenagers were often dismissed as voluntary disappearances. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, founded only 5 years earlier in 1984, was still building its resources, leaving local law enforcement ill-equipped to handle such mysteries. Aundria's case slipped through the cracks, a casualty of a system unprepared for complexity. But in 2010, a letter arrived that reignited the story. Aundria's biological mother, Cathy Terkanian, learned for the first time that her daughter, whom she had given up for adoption as an infant, had been missing for 2 decades. Cathy had believed she was ensuring a better life for her child. Now she was determined to uncover the truth. What she discovered would unravel a tapestry of lies, abuse, and murder, proving Aundria's disappearance was no simple runaway tale. This is the story of a mother's unyielding quest for justice, a killer's concealed crimes, and a case that laid bare the justice system's flaws. It poses haunting questions. How far would you go to find the truth? And how long can that truth stay hidden? Stay with me as we uncover the chilling details of this case. Welcome to Sinister Journal, your go-to channel for the best true crime documentaries. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a case. Now let's get into it. Aundria Bowman entered the world as Alexis Miranda Badger on June 23, 1974, in New Orleans, Louisiana. Her biological mother, Cathy Terkanian, was a mere 17 years old, grappling with the overwhelming demands of young motherhood. Pressured by her family and lacking support, Cathy made the agonizing choice to place Alexis for adoption. "I was told it was the best thing for her," Cathy later reflected. "I wanted her to have a life I couldn't provide, a stable home, opportunities I couldn't dream of giving." At 9 months old, Alexis was adopted by Dennis and Brenda Bowman, a Michigan couple who renamed her Aundria Michelle Bowman. The adoption was closed, severing all ties between Cathy and her daughter. For decades, Cathy wondered about her child's life, clinging to the hope that she had found joy and security. The Bowmans raised Aundria in Hamilton, Michigan, a small, interconnected community where life revolved around church socials and Friday night football games. Dennis worked as a machinist, crafting precision parts, while Brenda tended to the home. In 1988, they welcomed a second daughter, Vanessa, making Aundria a big sister. To outsiders, the Bowmans appeared unremarkable. Yet beneath this ordinary exterior, cracks were forming. Aundria was a bright, imaginative child with a flair for drawing and storytelling. But as she entered her teens, her spark dimmed. Her grades plummeted. She began smoking, and she ran away multiple times, though she always returned after a few days. Friends noticed a shift. "She wasn't herself anymore," said Jennifer Jones, a close friend. "She seemed scared, like something was weighing on her." Adoption, though often rooted in love, can leave lasting emotional echoes. Aundria, aware of her adoption from a young age, may have wrestled with feelings of abandonment or a fractured sense of self. Experts note that adoptees sometimes grapple with complex emotions, gratitude mingled with resentment, which can manifest in rebellion or withdrawal. Her adoptive family, outwardly stable, might not have fully grasped or addressed these struggles. She talked about wanting to see the world beyond Hamilton, Jennifer recalled, but there was a sadness in her, a heaviness she couldn't shake. On March 11, 1989, Aundria disappeared. Dennis told police she'd stolen $100 from Brenda's purse and left a note declaring her intent to leave for good. "She's done this before," he assured investigators. "She'll come back when she's ready." The police, perhaps too eager to close the book, labeled her a runaway. Sightings in Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo surfaced, but they led nowhere. As months stretched into years, Aundria faded from view, another name lost to the missing persons roster. Cathy Terkanian, however, never stopped wondering. In 2010, a letter from social services shattered her world, revealing that her daughter, now Aundria Bowman, had been missing since 1989. The letter requested Cathy's DNA to identify a Jane Doe in Wisconsin. It wasn't a match, but it sparked a fire in Cathy. "I felt like I'd been punched in the gut," she said. "I'd spent years imagining her happy, safe. Now I knew something was wrong, and I had to find her. I couldn't just sit there." Cathy Terkanian's journey began with that 2010 letter, a jolt that upended decades of quiet wondering. She had no roadmap, only determination. Her first move was launching a Facebook page, Find Aundria Bowman, a desperate bid to connect with anyone who might hold a piece of her daughter's story. The response was staggering. Aundria's friends, now grown, poured out memories and dark suspicions. Jennifer Jones shared a haunting recollection. "She told me her dad was molesting her. She was terrified, but didn't know how to escape." Another friend, Michelle Timmer, described seeing Dennis chase Aundria through the house, striking her with unchecked fury. "It wasn't discipline," Michelle said. "It was rage, pure and simple." These accounts painted a grim portrait of Aundria's home, but Cathy craved hard evidence. She partnered with Carl Koppelman, a forensic artist and self-taught sleuth with a knack for cracking missing persons cases. Together, they probed Dennis Bowman's past, unearthing a troubling history. In 1980, Dennis was arrested for trying to lure a young woman into a Michigan woodland. When she fought back, he assaulted her. He pleaded guilty, serving 5 years in prison from 1981 to 1986. Aundria vanished just 3 years after his release. "This wasn't a struggling family," Koppelman told Cathy. "This was a predator sharing her roof." Cathy's mission became a lifeline, a way to reclaim the daughter she'd never known. She dove into the world of missing persons, mastering investigative tactics and harnessing social media's reach. The Facebook page buzzed with tips and support. "I couldn't believe how many people stepped up," Cathy said. "It was like Aundria's life had rippled through so many others." The trail deepened in 1998 when Dennis was caught breaking into a coworker's home, stealing women's lingerie. Sentenced to probation, the incident underscored a pattern of deviance. "This wasn't an aberration," Koppelman insisted. "It was who he was." Cathy grew obsessed, using Google Earth to scrutinize the Bowman property, fixating on a backyard cement slab. "I kept thinking, what if she's there?" she said. "What if he hid her beneath it?" Law enforcement dragged its feet, citing insufficient evidence for a search. But in November 2019, the tide turned. Dennis Bowman was arrested, not for Aundria, but for the 1980 murder of Kathleen Doyle in Norfolk, Virginia. Kathleen, a 25-year-old Navy wife, was raped and killed while her husband was at sea. The case languished for nearly 40 years until DNA pinned Bowman to the crime. He'd been in Norfolk for a Navy reservist drill, a convenient cover to dodge court dates for his earlier assault. "He lived a double life," said Detective John Smith. "We didn't suspect he was tied to more." In custody for Kathleen Doyle's murder, Dennis Bowman's facade crumbled. During a recorded call with his wife Brenda, he confessed to killing Aundria. His voice shook as he spoke. "I didn't mean to do it. We were arguing. She threatened to tell everyone I was molesting her again. I snapped," he claimed. He struck Aundria, causing her to fall down the stairs and break her neck. He then dismembered her with an axe and buried her in a barrel in their Hamilton backyard. "I've carried this for 30 years, he told Brenda. "I can't hold it anymore." Brenda, reeling, alerted the police. In February 2020, A search of the Bowmans' Monterey Township property, where they had relocated after Aundria's disappearance, unearthed her skeletal remains beneath a cement layer, validating Cathy's hunch. DNA confirmed it was Aundria. It was bittersweet, Cathy said. I found her, but too late to save her. Psychologists note that such confessions, decades delayed, may stem from guilt, a need for closure, or even a bid for control. For Dennis, it might have been all three. Yet doubts swirled. Was it truly an accident? He had a violent streak, said Detective Sarah Johnson. It's hard to buy it was just a slip. Inconsistencies, like his claim of acting solo when evidence hinted at assistance, fueled skepticism. The community, too, grappled with the revelation. We thought we knew him, said neighbor Tom Ellis. To learn he'd buried her here. It's chilling. Dennis's confession opened a Pandora's box. Linked to Kathleen Doyle's murder, he became a suspect in other cases. The 1989 abduction of a 6-year-old Michigan girl, the 1977 stabbing of Deborah Polinsky, and the 1970 murder of Shelley Speet Mills. Though unproven, these connections suggested a serial predator. We may never grasp his full toll, Koppelman said, but Aundria wasn't alone in his shadow. In May 2020, Dennis Bowman faced charges for Aundria's murder. Pleading no contest to second-degree murder, he was sentenced to 35 to 50 years in February 2022, on top of 2 life terms for Kathleen Doyle's rape and murder. At 71, prison is his final chapter. Justice is here, said prosecutor Mark Thompson, but it's cold comfort for Aundria's family. The case exposed gaping, systemic flaws. Aundria's cries of abuse went unheard, her disappearance shrugged off as a runaway's whim. If someone had acted, she might be alive, Cathy lamented. The system abandoned her. DNA technology proved pivotal. Without the match in Kathleen's case, Dennis might have evaded justice, and Aundria's grave stayed secret. It's a leap forward, said forensic expert Dr. Emily Carter. Yet it reveals how many cases linger unsolved for want of tools or will. Aundria's story echoes beyond her. Families like the McCullows, seeking answers in unrelated murders, draw inspiration from Cathy's fight. While no direct link ties Dennis to the McCullough case, his shadow prompts scrutiny. We chase every thread, said Detective Johnson. If he's tied to more, we'll uncover it. Systemic failures, bias against troubled teens, resource scarcity, delayed justice. We assumed they'd return, said retired Detective Mark Thompson. When they didn't, we were lost. Today, advocates push for reform, better training, funding for cold cases, and support for searching families. Aundria's legacy fuels that call. Aundria Bowman's case is a stark lesson in buried truths, sometimes literal, often systemic. It took Cathy's tenacity, a separate murder probe, and DNA breakthroughs to unearth justice. Yet mysteries persist. How many others fell to Dennis? Why did the system fail Aundria so long? What lurks unseen? Cathy presses on, seeking to annul Aundria's adoption and restore her birth name, Alexis Badger. She was always Alexis to me, Cathy said. That's how I'll honor her. She also fights for sole custody of Aundria's remains, shared now with Brenda. I want her at peace, Cathy said, voice cracking. She's earned it. Aundria's saga has ignited reform talks, especially for vulnerable groups like adoptees and troubled teens. Advocacy groups demand better police training, cold case resources, and family aid. Her story screams, we can't quit, Cathy said. We must search until every lost child is found. Reflecting on this, we ponder the silent tales of other missing souls and the families still hunting for closure. Aundria's journey testifies to persistence's power and reminds us that truth, however delayed, can be more wrenching than any fiction. And that concludes our deep dive into this fascinating case. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next investigation into the world's most compelling stories. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious and stay safe.